Join me on this 8 miles kayak from Bidford-on-Avon to Evesham on the Avon River on the 18th of September 2024. Watch on to find out what it's like paddling Shakespeare'S Avon through the picturesque scenery of the Vale of Evesham. Discover interesting features along this route, such as historic Bidford, the riverboat traffic I passed, and the ancient town of Evesham, and find out how I managed to negotiate around the 4 weirs on this route without ending up in the water. This 8 miles kayak on the Avon River was a one-way route from Bidford-on-Avon to Evesham. I launched from Bidford-on-Avon at 10:30 am, and after passing Marcliff Lock and Weir, I continued downstream passing Cleeve Hill. I traversed Harvington Lock and Weir and then the George Billington Lock and Weir at Offenham. After passing the bridge in at Offenham, I portaged around Evesham Weir before landing just below the Workman Bridge in Evesham at 4:30 pm. I'm at Bidford-on-Avon and I'm going to launch from the left bank over there just below the bridge. I've just spotted a mink in the water over there and all the ducks and geese have gone crazy. It's 10:30 am and I'm just going to launch from below Bidford Bridge, so it's 8 miles to Evesham. You can see Bidford Bridge in the background with the bridge in backing onto the river on the west side of the bridge. Over there on the right bank at Bidford you've got another pub called the Frog Inn. Bidford-on-Avon is an attractive village with a high street blessed with Georgian architecture. I paddled past a variety of boats moored up along the banks at Bidford before passing what appeared to be a rowing club with a number of long racing kayaks, which looked a bit faster than the inflatable kayak that I was using. Bidford-on-Avon slid away behind me as I paddled through a long straight section of the river with rush-lined banks. This was only my second paddle on the Avon River, the first having been down near Tewkesbury where the Avon flows into the larger Severn River. I was quite surprised by how narrow the Avon was, much narrower than the sections of the Severn River that I'd paddled between Gloucester and Worcester. I came upon a pair of swans about half a mile downstream of Bidford-on-Avon, one of whom certainly showed me exactly what she thought of me. So much for their reputation as being graceful birds. On this trip I was using an Aqua Spirit inflatable kayak. This is a single skin PVC hybrid inflatable, which is a high pressure drop stitch floor and lower pressure side tubes. The side tubes inflate to 2.5 psi and the drop stitch flow inflates to a higher pressure of 8 psi. I was using the solo version of the Aqua Spirit kayak, which is 320 centimeters long and which weighs just over 10 kilograms. It's a relatively light kayak, which I would be glad for later when I had to carry it around the 4 weirs that I'd encounter on this route. I'm uploading a full review of the Aqua Spirit kayak to our product reviews playlist of our channel. The heavily wooded Marcliff Hill is on my left. The river runs south from Bidford, but then is forced westwards where it meets Marcliff Hill. Ahead of me downstream you can see Marcliff Weir on the right side of the river, with Marcliff Lock on the left. I'm not keen on paddling over weirs, so I plan to get out and carry my kayak around all 4 of the weirs that I'd be passing on this trip. This large boat coming through has just passed through Marcliff Lock, which is down there on the left hand side. Marcliff Lock is on the left side of the island and the weir is over there on the right hand side. The wall approaching the lock was less than 2 foot above the water level, so I'd be able to get out without too much trouble. That's where I got out, just above the lock, so I'm going to try to cross now onto the island in the middle of the river and then relaunch back into the river below the lock and weir. I'm just getting a closer look at Marcliff Weir from the island. Doesn't look too bad and I might have been able to have walked the boat down it actually. After portaging the lock, I launched back into the river off the bottom of the island below the lock and weir. Apparently that's the River Arrow, which flows into the Avon over there on the right hand side. And ahead of me I've got a couple of curious swans. As I passed Abbot Salford Holiday Park, I hugged the left bank to avoid the lines of some fishermen who were over on the right bank. There are an amazing amount of fishing platforms on the Avon River. There seemed to be a fishing platform almost every 30 metres or so along the riverbanks. While the vast majority of the fishing platforms were vacant, they were very difficult to see due to the summer foliage, and oftentimes you could only see them as you passed by them. I was on the constant lookout for anglers as I paddled downstream, and on a few occasions had to take evasive action to avoid paddling into their fishing lines. I didn't actually see a large number of anglers on the river, but on some stretches there were quite a few people fishing. The Avon River is mostly quite narrow, so you often haven't got that much room to go around fishing lines, but all you can do is to hug the far bank. I think that the Avon is closed to all angling from the 15th of March to the 15th of June each year, and if so, then presumably the river would be quieter over that period. I passed several boats on this trip, including this amazing narrow boat called It Takes Two. It's great to see these boats out on the river. On the right of the picture is the heavily wooded Cleve Hill. The Avon River here runs down the county border, with Warwickshire on the north or right of picture, and Worcestershire on the south or left of picture. Regarding logistics, my car was parked near to the riverside in Evesham at the end of the route. I had got a taxi from Evesham to Bidford-on-Avon, with a view to launching there and paddling the 8 miles downstream back to Evesham. Inflatable kayaks are great for being able to use taxis or public transport when you were doing one-way routes, because they pack away into a backpack. At the date of this trip in September 2024, buses 28 and 247 ran between Evesham and Bidford, so they could provide a possible public transport option. I'm just coming up to Harvington Weir. I'm always a bit wary about getting too close to weirs in case I end up going over the top of them. That channel there in the middle leads down to the dry dock, and over there on the right hand side you've got Harvington Lock. The wall on the right hand side of the weir is about 3.5 foot high. It's a bit difficult to get out, so I'm going to get out instead on this sloping bank down near the dry dock. I'm at Harvington Lock, just looking downstream. The plan was to get back in on the right hand side, but the wall there looks quite high. The wall below Harvington Lock looks quite high to get in off, so I'm going to try and find somewhere easier to launch from. I managed to find a footpath down to the bottom of the island below the dry dock where I'm going to try and launch from. That turned out to be a bit of an ordeal. I wish I'd just relaunched into the river off that wall on the right hand side below the lock. As you can see, I'm coming up to another lock. This is the George Billington Lock at Offenham. On the left side of the island at Offenham is Offenham Weir, which you can see in these photos, together with the Fish and Anchor Inn, which overlooks the weir. There's quite a high wall here at Offenham Lock. It's about 3 foot high, so I'm going to have to haul myself out. As you can see, I'm portaging around the right hand side of the lock. It's a bit of an effort to get all of my bags and kayak up on top of the wall. I'm just below the George Billington Lock at Offenham, and I'm going to have to get back in off this wall. This might end up in a disaster as I try to get back into my kayak off this 3 foot wall. I managed to get back into my kayak without flipping it, so now I've got to get my bags in off the wall. I've managed to get around 3 weirs already, and I've got one more to go at Evesham near the end. By the end of this route, I had mastered a technique for portaging, involving firstly getting my bags off the kayak onto the side of the canal, getting myself onto the bank or wall, and then lifting my kayak out of the water. On the left, you can see the bridge in at Offenham coming up. I'm just passing the bridge in at Offenham. Looks like a nice waterside pub for a stop off, but unfortunately I don't have time. When planning this route, I'd used an excellent book by Mark Rainsley called Paddle Shakespeare'S Avon. This has chapters covering 9 sections of the Avon River, from the upper reaches all the way down to its confluence with the Severn River. I also had used a very good website called Paddle Points, which had further information about some of the weirs, locks and launching or landing locations. There are quite a lot of weirs and locks on the Avon River, and if you're paddling this river then you need to be aware of any along your route, and also whether you can paddle over them, known as shooting them, or get out and carry your kayak around them, known as portaging. On the date of me doing this trip, the river level at the gauging station at Evesham was 0.5 metres, and at the gauging station at Bidford it was 1.3 metres. The important thing is that the levels were well within the normal range for these gauging stations. I used the website River Levels UK to check the levels on rivers before I paddle them, to make sure that the levels are well within the usual range. I approached the outskirts of Evesham, which was founded around an 8th century abbey, one of the largest in Europe at its time. A famous battle took place at Evesham in 1265 between the barons led by Simon de Montfort and the royalists led by Prince Edward during a civil war between the barons and the king. On the left of picture you can see the boat-lined Evesham Marina. Those barriers ahead on the right are Evesham Weir, so I'm going to get out at that ramp on the left and portage around it. This is quite an easy portage around Evesham Weir. You just get out at this ramp on the left hand side. You've even got a ramp to get back into the river easily below Evesham Weir, by far the easiest portage of the trip. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video then please give us a thumbs up and consider clicking on the left below to subscribe to our channel. I'm uploading videos of our other trips along the Avon River. Check out our website, which is linked below, for blogs of all our trips together with product reviews and kayaking guides. Happy paddling from the kayak crew.